Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CoROM podcast. This is where academic medicine meets remote, austere, and resource-limited areas. Welcome back to the program. This is Aebhric O'Kelly. This week, we are going to highlight 10 of the guests that we had this year. 2024 has been a fantastic year for the podcast. We have had over 30,000 downloads from 43 different countries. The top locations being the US, the UK, Germany, Australia, Norway, Ireland, and Canada. We appreciate our listeners and hope that you are integrating the knowledge and lessons learned that our guests are bringing to the table each week. Our first highlighted guest is Mike Turconi. I met Mike almost 10 years ago at the NATO Special Operations Combat Medic course in Pfullendorf, Germany. Since then, his deployments to the front lines in the East, he's completed a bachelor's degree from UCC in Cork, and he's currently working his way through our Masters of Austere Critical Care. Here are a few words from our talk earlier this year. To KCMC. Did you go to Cabocho as well?
I did. I went to KCMC. I spent most of my time at KCMC, and then when the time came to do some time at Cabocho, unfortunately, I was able to spend only a couple of days there because that was right when the earthquake in Turkey and northeast Syria had happened, and I needed to go. I participated briefly to the response over there, so I had to leave Cabocho prior to the end of my stint. It was a great learning experience. Completely different world, from under all aspects. The geography, the environment, the society, the way medicine works over there. So I'm very happy I had the chance to have that experience. And Cabocho is just, I don't even know how to describe this small, it's not even that small really, hospital nestled at the foot of Kilimanjaro, and there's even a great bar.
So here's a question for you. Kili beer or Serengeti?
I am ashamed to say that I haven't seen either.
What were they drinking up there then?
Oh, the beer.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kilimanjaro. Kilis.
Kili beer. It's fair enough.
Kilis. Yeah. I thought you were talking about the parts. Yeah. Kilis.
No. Far more important than that.
Far more important.
Talking about the pints. Yeah. I'm with you on the Kili beer. And I find that whenever I go into a new country or a new healthcare environment, finding the dirtiest, dankest, crappiest thing to help the nurses with, and they're stunned. They're like, "Why are you helping me clean this patient?" Well, we need to clean the patient, and you being there and helping roll and helping get this patient clean, they see that and they're like, "No med student's going to do that, right? That's below them." But for remote medics jumping in and like this is what prolonged field care is. This is what I need to learn, and then you do this. Usually, it's about a day.
Yeah, on that note, there was also some very good talks about Ukraine. A medic described very vividly and precisely the situation and the challenges of providing casualty care under constant drone threat, and I think that was also important for the community to hear, because a lot of people on this side, they might not have an idea of exactly how things are developing out on the Eastern Front. So very valuable for sure. It was a great experience. One thing I wanna say about both Cabocho and KCMC is that for people that are considering going there, is just be aware that it is a different system and it is a different form of medicine. Don't expect necessarily to be able to provide the same treatments that you would in a big university hospital in North America, because that's not going to be the case.
What precisely do you remember about tropical diseases during that
Ooh,
week that we taught?
any fever of unexplained origin in the tropics is malaria until proven otherwise.
That's good enough. That should be tattooed somewhere, in fact. Yeah, well done, Mike. You weren't expecting that one at all.
I would lie if I said I didn't prepare for that one. I knew you were gonna.
What advice do you have for the new paramedic, nurse, or new doctor interested in working in austere medicine?
Well, I would say start from the College of Remote and Offshore Medicine website because, no, I mean, obviously I would recommend the college for anybody that wants to start a career in this field. But from a more general perspective, I would say open your mind.
Our next guest is Dr. Sean Keenan, who needs no introduction. Here are some highlights from our discussion earlier this year.
So when you get to the face-to-face, it's like that flipped classroom concept. You should already know the basic didactics. You should have already done a little bit of pre-study, and now we're going to put it into practice by considering relevant cases, by working hands-on practical, and then putting it all together at the end of 4 days. So 4 days, you're absolutely right. Not a lot of time, but it seems to be the sweet spot for adult education. And, really the feedback we get at the end of this is, that was awesome. Where can I get more? So stay tuned. Who knows? Maybe there'll be more. But no, it's been kind of a fascinating process. It's been a long process, but yeah, really cool. And I was going around and I was just doing the same talk over and over again, explaining prolonged field care. But all I would do is show a picture of sub-Saharan Africa. I'd show that picture and I'd just tell people, like, imagine being here. And when you call for a helicopter, you're not getting one, right? Imagine being here and what that's going to take. And it really kind of fired up people's imaginations to say, wow, there is an experience of truly austere medical care, and we probably need to be thinking about it. But what do we need to do and truly act in the best interests of those in your charge and continue to learn and be humble, right? And be curious and ask questions. Don't expect stuff on face value, or understand that even though somebody is teaching you something, they're going to come with their biases and their perspectives. And so keep an open mind. You can always learn. It's funny. I told this to my kids, like, you can learn something from everyone. They might be a good example. They might be a bad example, but you can learn something from everyone. But just be open to learn, and always be curious and always be learning. So, best medical practices. Let's pull from civilian pre-hospital. Let's pull from international. Let's really pull best practices together. It's not dogmatic. Oh, and it's not just nursing care. Some people have said, oh yeah, it's just nursing care. It's a medic doing nursing care. Nursing writ large is its own specialty and subspecialty, and I do not mean to denigrate that whatsoever. But what I'm saying is, it takes the best practices, the best capabilities, and applies them to an austere setting. That kind of reception and feedback about this particular curriculum has led to comments saying, hey, I've been whatever for 20 years. This is the best training I've ever been in. And we specifically get permission to get these comments back from people. And so when I see that and that kind of profound impact, I just think to myself, wow, there's something special about this curriculum. So, it's not, it's military combat medicine that we're trying to teach the civilians. It's not that at all. It's good medicine.
Our next highlight comes from Dr. Jaime Riesberg, who was instrumental in separating prolonged casualty care from prolonged field care. We discussed the differences between PCC and PFC.
Special operations. So prolonged casualty care is just the next thing that happens after you complete your march pause in tactical combat casualty care. So while it was never designed to be protocolized, we had to create a protocolized approach that matched what the rest of the force knew, which was T-tri-C. So what we did was say, okay, T-tri-C, and then your T-tri-C ends and your medevac doesn't show up. What do you do now? Now you're in prolonged casualty care. This was just brilliant medics and paramedics coming up with minimum, better, best. And so you'll see that still in the guidelines, right? Is this minimum, better, best idea because of the environment gets the majority of the vote in combat. The enemy gets a vote, the environment gets a huge vote. Night, darkness, weather, think of trench warfare now that we're seeing again in Ukraine, and trying to do good medicine in a trench in 3 inches of mud and water and 38 degrees. Generals always fight the last war, especially if they won, right? So we're always looking at our last war. But let's look back further than that. Let's look back at our last 200 or our last 500 years. And the reality is you're never going to clear the battlefield as quickly as you want, right? It's just never going to happen. The right answer is clear the battlefield, get the casualties to the level of care they need. But when we look at our current operating environment and we look at the lessons from Ukraine, is that ever going to happen? We know right now in the United States, 13% of the population is rural, underserved, and cannot reach a hospital in under an hour, let alone get surgery. So that's 13% of our population overall. That's a small percentage of paramedics that need to be doing this kind of concept. But for those paramedics who do, we owe it to them to give them the best solutions possible, right? And give them the tools, the training, the knowledge, and the skills, the sustainment to take care of those patients when those bad days come. If you're able to be curious and think about the problem different ways, you'll find a way to use the environment to your benefit, right? This is the heart and soul of wilderness medicine. It's like jazz music, right? You have to improvise. You're never going to have all the equipment you want. You're not going to have the hospital wall suction and unlimited oxygen. So what do you do with these patients?
Our next highlight comes from Antonio and EuroMed.
So the Advanced Guerrilla First Responder Course, or the AGFR, is what we are working towards. We have various subcomponents of that. So one of them is a basic prolonged care course, which is basically PCC, but like more at the EMT or combat medic level. So just to provide people with an introduction to prolonged care, strategies of nursing, taking care of patients in these resource limited environments for longer than just a few hours. A lot of people at the moment were looking at guerrilla medicine as being kind of, a niche topic, something that is fancy or that is, fantasy land. And I think the bitter realization has hit us that we need to take it very seriously. When we look at Ukraine and how that affects the civilian population, it's not just something that is military only. It's very much something that involves a civilian medic as well. Yeah, medicine was always a huge part of that. Obviously, medical support in irregular warfare plays a huge role, not only in terms of actual providing medical care, but also in terms of morale. It's a very important factor for the troops, knowing that there is somebody that can take care of them if they get injured or when. So yeah, that's a big thing. And Poland was running a very elaborate system of underground hospitals and evac routes, etc., to smuggle injured personnel through a German occupation. So European Medics was really, the name doesn't really exclude anyone. And yeah, we're very happy with that. And it doesn't even have to be pre-hospital. I think that medicine is really such a broad spectrum of applications and things that you need to know. So European Medics really is a cover or like an umbrella term for anyone that works in bettering patients' lives. Eventually, there is a moment where you gain, or at least for the moment, you feel like you know enough. and that is great. But if that's not the case, don't be afraid to ask questions. We're all eternal students, even the people at the top. And be of good courage.
Our next highlight is Dr. Jørgen Melau, who is a PhD level paramedic working in the Norwegian military. He is one of the world's experts on hyperthermia in operational settings.
And what we do, just to do it very, very short, is that we have a 3-layer system also on our hands, at least when it's very cold. We have a liner on the closest to the hand, and then we have insulation outside that if needed, and then we have a wind and waterproof layer on the as the outer layer also on our hands. And then you can skip the insulation layer, of course, if it's not that cold. But what you try to do is you try to never remove your liners, the inner liners next to your skin. So I really would advise to have a lot of thought into keep your fingers warm. But what you try to do is you try to never remove your liners, the inner liners next to your skin. Yeah. There are too many people and too many organizations, I should say, that depends too much on the gear and not that much on the knowledge on how to use the gear and how to behave and also treat casualty in the cold environments. So I would say that to prepare for Arctic PFC, it's much, much more about knowledge than the actual gear you use. Yes, so there are different ways of improving the vapor barrier, and using breathable materials is certainly one of them. So we can make sure to have breathable fabrics like wool that we commonly use in Norway, mesh wool layer closest to the body, and then we have a insulation layer of wool, and then on the outside we have Gore-Tex or similar fabrics, so that the whole burrito wrapping is breathable.
Our next highlight comes from CJ Malcolm, who runs the Guerrilla EMS in Colorado.
You've been here, Aebhric. It's beautiful. It's incredible. It's this remote basin surrounded by the Rocky Mountains. And that really attracted me as a paramedic. Urban medicine has its place, and it's such a great building stone. But I fell in love with austere medicine at Grand Canyon primarily. And I just saw this potential, knowing where humanity was going, wanting to live more and more rurally in these rural villas and isolated places. And I saw potential. I mean, Gunnison almost reminded me of the Park Service, almost like the Grand Canyon. You get tired, you eat lunch, you take a nap if you're smart, you hike down. Grand Canyon's a different deal. You get sucked right into that bad boy. You look up and you've got 5 vertical feet in a degree heat over 10 miles, and it hammers people. And so we really were trying to prevent the inevitable SARS, of which we had hundreds. We had around 6 what we called minor SARS and about 3 major SARS. Our goal is to have all FPC trained paramedics. That's flight paramedic certified. That takes a tremendous amount of time, and we have a lot of people in the pipeline, and we have very strict criterion. We know here that certification does not mean qualification or competency. And I think that education is the solution for a lot of problems worldwide. And so, yes, I am in support of the degreed paramedic. I've been thinking a lot about this. And I think that would help us unify as a species, as a profession, what it is we're here to contribute to the planet, to our countries, to our counties, to our cities.
So you have blood on your rigs.
Yes.
And any other blood products or just fresh whole blood?
We do never frozen plasma, so fresh plasma.
Nice.
And packed red blood cells. So those two, we can bring 1, 2, or more units. Typically in the field, getting in much more than 2 units is unlikely. And obviously we bring TXA as well.
How did you do that? Our next highlight comes from Peter Anders Christiensen, also known as PAC, from Denmark. PAC started the whole concept of the Nordic Special Operations Combat Medic Program.
Well, what we have in Europe, we have 27 NATO, probably wrong. I think it's 31 NATO countries right now, all with their own national rules. And I can say it's been an uphill struggle with for example, blood products. And this changed, of course, because pressure from the soft commanders, from the medical leaders, was quite strong in different nations. Working for the International Committee Red Cross in a Afghan war-wounded hospital in Peshawar. I wrote an article about this in JSOM a couple of years back. It was called Medicine on the Edge of Darkness. And I ended the article by writing, remember, when you work austere medicine, you have to be prepared that nothing works like it does back in your home hospital. You have to be prepared to improvise. A paramedic who joins the forces. If we take the Canadians have a shooter who has an education as a medic, a much shorter education. They are called NSOPs, NATO Special Operation Medical Technicians. So maybe we'll be seeing a movement away from the shooter having a 22-week education to maybe a shorter education and then developing the NSOPs program in NATO. You have to be prepared to improvise. You have to be prepared to accept a lower level of care than you would meet in an American or European hospital. And that is actually quite some heavy preparation because these young guys, young people, they come out into environments where nothing is as it seems. SGB is remarkably effective to treat the hyperarousal part of PTSD. It works actually 3 to 6 months, where the hyperarousal element is more or less removed.
Our final highlight comes from Ukraine, where last summer a few of us CoROM faculty went to teach the Train the Trainer course called Damage Control Resus Ukraine.
So TCCC is really good, but we need also a prolonged casualty care.
So let's start with Tactical Medicine North. Where did that come from? How did you guys get to here?
Well, in 2022, when the full-scale invasion has started, we've gathered some of our friends and parts of family. We were trying to evacuate out of the capital. The problem is that we don't have enough time to teach properly our medics. And as I said, they are dying too fast to be properly taught until this level. So we need to teach them really fast and really intense. The students are really, really motivated. Just for you to understand, they came to this course from the front line. And after this course, they're going back to the front line. So all the knowledges we gave them, they will repeat again in trenches, like in trenches.
We need to remind them some skills which are not so popular on the practical level. So we still need to teach a lot, no matter that, for example, we teach, let's imagine, half of an Ukrainian army. We still need to do this job again and again and again.
Each guest, I ask a question at the very end, my final question, and I would be remiss if I didn't do that with you as well.
And don't forget that you need to train instantly. So you cannot train only one or only two times per year.
Yes, I hope that we can extend those courses and to do that more appropriately. And I hope that we will do our homework, because the war has started 2014, and we were supposed to teach our army tactical medicine and everything we needed. We're just, I don't know, hoping for something. Okay, and here we are. So I hope that we will do our homework and we will keep teaching and doing our. Find the resources, read it, learn it, and this is the only way to find the truth.
And don't forget that you need to train instantly. So you cannot train only one or only two times per year. You still need to be really great in the basics. Applying tourniquets, do wound packing. So no matter how experienced are you, just continue training and continue teaching.
It's easier to take someone without medical education, teach him until at least CMC level, and send to the front line.
So you asked the college to create or help create a 4-day program to build on the combat medic level. Tell us, where did that come from? Why did you wake up one morning and say, we want the college to create this curriculum, and why did you choose to have DCR curriculum? You have a course called Damage Control Resus. It teaches prolonged casualty care, teaches damage control as well. Is there a next step? What's the future? Once you get everyone trained up onto this, what's the next step?
I think the next step is to do that on a high quality level. I think that the next step is not going somewhere up or different. This is to spread it and to do it really, really highly.
On high level, yeah.
On high level, yes.
At the end of each episode, I ask my guest, what advice do they have for the new medic, the new nurse, the new doctor, who is just starting out in their career? For this final episode of 2024, we have heard some of our guests give their advice. I can end this episode and this year with advice of my own. My advice for you is this: be hungry. Never be satisfied with the medical knowledge that you currently have. Always compete with who you were yesterday. As long as you continue to better yourself, be a better person than you were in the past, you will continue to improve and create a better world around you. Thank you, the listener, for a fantastic 2024. We look forward to seeing you again here on the CoROM podcast in 2025.
This has been a presentation from the College of Remote and Offshore Medicine. If you would like to earn CPD credits for this podcast, you can join the Council of Members. Being a member of the college gives you free CPD credit, free access to our virtual field guide, and discounts on our e-learning courses. You can join the team on our college website at corom.edu.mt.